but the way that he's been able to operate our offense and our tempo in and out of the huddle, getting plays from the sideline, right? It's a big part of what we do is signaling in that play, right? We don't have the note cards or wristbands or whatever. It comes in a signal, and there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. I think he's handled all that really well through these practices because dating back to the spring, he was only working 7-on-7. He wasn't doing team drills. So to have him back in that huddle with 10 other guys, I think he's handled that really well, and that's exciting.
We keep on hearing about his competitive edge. Have you seen that play out?
He's a competitive guy, right? So I think if you do this for a living, if you're competitive, if it matters to you and you have a little pride, then you're going to approach things in a certain way on a daily basis. And I have seen that out of him, and I think that's a really good thing in a quarterback. I think the flip side to that edge is the hard part about playing quarterback is you also, the only play that matters is the next play. And when you're an ultra competitive person, the challenge is actually keeping focus on what's ahead of you, right? Not what's behind you, one way or the other. Right? And I think anybody that's competitive probably struggles with that a little bit. I know I can raise my hand on that one. But yeah, I've seen him be pretty competitive. It's a good thing.
You were mentioning sleeping a little better at night. Is there anything else that this offense is doing there? Maybe you get a little bit more shut eye?
Yeah, well, I was just joking. Because the reality is, in our business, right, if you do my job, you worry about everything. You worry about everything and you don't sleep well. Because your job is to worry and prepare and have contingencies. But what gives me satisfaction, what gives me a small sense, a fleeting sense of contentedness in the evening is that I like the way the guys are coming out and working every day. And they keep a focus on improvement. We see improvement on a daily basis, and there's a consistency to our approach that gives me some hope that we can keep building.
How has Spence been helping out? How is he developing as a coach, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. Sometimes I have to educate him a little bit. I don't know. I think probably the hardest thing for him, he mentioned to me the other day that his sleep schedule's changed a little bit. And I just tried to explain to him that, in coaching, I'm always very wary of coaches that talk about how little they sleep or what time they get up and do stuff. I know there's a lot of people in this state that probably work a lot harder than guys coaching a children's game. But I try to explain to him that that's part of adulting, right? So you leave childhood. There's a time to put away childish things. That's right now. Now you are joining the adult, normal human population, and you have to do what you have to do, right? It's not about what you want to do anymore. So I think that's probably been the biggest adjustment just from a sleep standpoint. As far as handling the responsibilities of what we're giving him, come on, he is who he is. He knocks it out of the park. It's great to have around.
So have you seen an impact in terms of confidence that Kate has kind of instilled in the rest of the offense?
I think that what I've seen is confidence grow from every spot. And confidence comes from preparation, right? So I've seen every group, every single position group, every single player gaining that confidence because as you prepare, as you do the work, the confidence in your abilities should come. And then hopefully as a unit that comes together and you have some confidence as a unit, but it doesn't happen until the individuals are doing it first.
You were mentioning doing the same things back in the spring, just doing it better. What gives you hope that this year is going to be different than the last two?
Football is a simple game. It hasn't changed very much. If you're going to defeat zone coverage in the passing game, you're probably going to need to put spacing and timing. If you're going to defeat man coverage, you're going to need to create some leverage, and you're going to have to have an accurate quarterback. If you're going to run the football or throw it, you better block people. Okay, so when I talk about doing the same things better, it's because there is no other way. There is no other way, right? You run the plays you run, because those are the plays that everyone runs. We're not going to reinvent the wheel here. Perhaps someone will come along, and I leave that open, the possibility, I leave that very much open, because I don't think I have all the answers, and I certainly don't think I'm any more intelligent than anyone else. But I know what I know. What we're going to do is get better at the fundamentals of what we're doing, and I think the results will follow.
How much of an asset has John Budmeyer been for you?
Yeah, John, I've spoken at length about John and the whole staff. We have a very good football staff offensively. Those are guys that I lean on very hard. There's a collaboration that happens. And I would give credit not just to John, but I'd start with George, coaching the line, Liddell coaching the backs, Cole coaching the receivers, right? And Abdul's done a really nice job with our tight ends. So I feel really good about the offensive staff that we have, to include, right, I left out our graduate assistants and certainly our student assistants. And then we had a new analyst join us. So I feel really good about all those guys. It'll make my life a lot easier.
After 3 years of Spencer, how is Cade different? What does he bring that maybe Spencer didn't?
Well, every quarterback's different, right? And every player is different. Coach a lot of guys, and the reality is in football, at some point, especially in college football, every 2, 3, 4 years, sometimes every 1 year, we're going to see new guys. And I'll rewind. I'm not as old as the head coach. I don't have as much experience. I can't throw out crazy dates like 1981 and things like that. It wasn't that long ago, right? It was. I wasn't born yet. Not to make you feel old. But I'll rewind to 2015. I remember being in the press conference of 2015 in that room right in there, and it was like the sky was falling because obviously Brandon had gone 5th overall in the draft whenever he had gone at left tackle, and Andrew Donnell had gone in the 4th round at right tackle. And I remember being a little bit actually put off by the questions. It surprised me because I thought this is what happens in college football. That guys graduate, and then no matter how good they were, new guys come in, right? So this is what we do. This is every time you start over a new year. Sometimes in a season, every week is a new challenge. There's going to be new players, and everybody else. Whether it's a tackle, whether it's a quarterback, whether it's a running back, whether it's a right guard, a receiver, a tight end, I think they're going to put their own stamp on the position. But every player is different. I haven't been around many players who are carbon copies. Now look, there's some guys that we've had in the past. I wish we could carbon copy, but it doesn't happen, right? So the key is whoever's next, making sure that they know how to do it and they can find a way to be successful.
When you brought in Cade, what was the first time, especially because he wasn't able to practice, what was the first time where you're like, this is our guy? Like, how quickly did that happen?
Well, before we brought him in. Yeah. Because I would hope if we didn't find that out till we brought him in, that would have been a scary movie.
Right.
But I think I understand the question. No, just from day one when he showed up. And we were in the off-season program. The guys were in the weight room. The guys were training. We really weren't doing anything football specific yet. But just watching him, watching Eric, I throw Seth Anderson in there. A lot of the guys that joined us. And then fast forward, Dejan joined us at that point. Rusty Feth joined us in the summer. Every one of those guys, as they've come in, my first exposure to them has been, all right, we got the right guy. We didn't make a mistake. And that just comes down to how they handle themselves, right? It's really pretty, especially with an older guy. You can just tell when an older guy walks in, it's kind of like being in the National Football League in free agency. There's a certain standard that you had for how a veteran would handle himself. That's what we've seen out of these guys.
So in 2020, you guys averaged 4.62 per carry. How much of a difference maker is that as a play caller, offensive coordinator? And what this offense, could you say, doesn't really change?
I think in any offense, right, at the end of the day, you have to be able to run the football. The game hasn't changed that much. If you want to win football games, you have to be able to run the football. It's better when you can run it all game, but most specifically, you have to be able to run it when the defense and everyone in the stadium knows you're going to run it. That's how you win. And that's certainly how you win in this league. That's been borne out. So it certainly helps, right? But the reality is, you try not to compare too much this year, that year. I don't know what the exact number would be. I just know we need to establish a run game. That's going to come down to a lot of things, but first and foremost, we have to be able to block guys. And that's where it's all going to start.
Do you see this offensive line
Yes.
getting more to that level?
Yes, yeah. So, I've seen guys do a very nice job through the spring, saw a lot of growth, and then through the first 8 days of camp, I've been very pleased with that group. I think the key moving forward is can we sustain that growth and that level of performance over a long period of time and build consistency. And we're just too far away from the first game to probably know that yet. Yeah. I wish I had a time machine. But what I'm seeing right now, makes me hopeful.
And then accuracy, John talked a lot about Cade's really accurate. Like, how much does that help too? Just if you could get to, 64% like it was in Michigan versus 55% where you guys have been.
Yeah, well, accuracy is a big part of it. Again, I'll go back and say it's a team effort, right? So protection first. It's hard to throw the ball accurately if you don't have time to throw it. Then we better make sure we're clean in the route, whether we're being zone coverage or man coverage. And then, of course, the quarterback has to deliver the ball on time and accurately. But with all those things tied together, reality is really simple. It's not a difficult game. If we're completing more passes, then we're making more yards, we're moving the ball more effectively, and hopefully we're staying on the field. And if we stay on the field, then we're going to increase our opportunity to score points. And then at the end of the day, hopefully we're scoring more points.
You've been
Backup quarterback. Kirk said Joe's not been able to practice.
Yes.
Unfortunately. But what have you seen? Because obviously, if something happens to Cade, Deacon can leave. So where's he at?
Yeah, Deacon's done a really nice job. I mentioned all the transfers. I left Deacon out. He's another guy that's come in and really impressed us dating back to January. He's done a lot with the opportunities that he had in the spring. Obviously, it was just him and Joe really working with the team. At that point, Cade was getting some of the 7-on-7. And then unfortunately with Joe's injury, Deacon's been getting a lot of reps. Unfortunately for Joe, fortunate for Deacon, right? And he's taking advantage of those things. Big, strong arm. Also pretty accurate guy. And I've been impressed with what he's done so far, So it gives me confidence. And the good news about last season is, the December situation, probably not what any of us would hope for as far as what ended up transpiring. But the reality is I thought Joe did a really good job with the opportunity that he had. And certainly that gives us some confidence too. We've seen him do it in a game. I think we know what he's pretty much know what he's capable of right at this point. Now, how much growth can we facilitate?
Brian, I asked you after week 1 last year, why didn't you take advantage of more waste downs against South Dakota State? And your response to me was, well, I didn't feel like we had many waste downs. As the season progressed, and by my count, you guys attempted to take advantage of approximately 5 waste downs all year. Is that something you look back at and say, we gotta be a little bit more opportunistic with? Or what's your approach with waste downs?
Could you give me your definition of waste down?
My definition would be 2nd and 1, 2 or 3, or 3rd and 1. Obviously that's up for debate, right?
I would have a hard time ever seeing 3rd and 1 as a waste down.
Okay.
If I could phrase the answer this way, I think if you think philosophically about offensive football, and then if you think philosophically about offensive football and how it fits into team football, or at least the team football that we're trying to play, our job is very simple. If you look at how we're built defensively, probably an easier way to flip this on its head. Look at us statistically. Look at what we do very well. Our defense always is going to be tops in points per game, right? So their focus is on limiting points, right? Now